Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape,
vinyl tape, carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. This brother is filled with everything, including the Holy Spirit. Brother Travis, talk to me. How are you, my man?
Man, I am doing wonderful. God is blessing way beyond what I deserve.
Yes, that's what I want to hear. And you know, you're in which part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Dallas.
You're in Dallas. So I'm thinking it's my time, but it's actually we were thinking about your time, but we're going to still rock, and this is going to be a very, very interesting and informative conversation. So I want to say welcome to the platform, and also congratulations on the book that you've just written. Tell us about the book, but first of all, tell us the name of the book.
Trading monsters or raising champions.
Yes.
What's wrong with these kids?
Yes.
D-E-E-Z.
Yes.
And the book is about coaching young families, young parents,
yes,
in how to raise children well.
Yes.
And avoid the landmines that so many parents make.
Yes.
As mistakes in raising children,
yes,
that turn out to be little monsters,
yes,
that prey on schools, families, and communities.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Now, how did you get involved in writing this book, and what was your interest in working through some of the concerns that parents have with their young folks that are turning into monsters? How did that all come about, Travis?
Well, I've spent 40 years in Texas Juvenile Justice as a director.
Yes.
I have seen about every imaginable scenario of children who have committed heinous crimes,
yes,
and the families that they grow up in.
Yes.
And as a result of those 40 years of work, and then working with so many families that have raised phenomenal kids, I created questions for them that would tell me the practices and habits that they followed from when that baby was in the belly to adulthood.
Yes.
And what's good news about all of this is about 85% of what everybody said was consistent.
Yes.
With a little change here and there.
Yes.
And man, I've had the burden on my heart for over 25 years. And during the pandemic is where it all came about.
Yes.
God put it on my heart. Three things happened. You know, when they give you three confirmations in a row,
yes,
he's trying to tell you something.
Absolutely.
The first thing that happened, Doc, a friend of mine who is executive director of a program called Data Dream, called me up and said, Travis, the Lord told me to call you and pray for you. She said, what do I need to pray for? I said, well, I just got kicked out of the schools because of the pandemic, and I need to make that money up. She prayed for me, and by the time we got through, she said this: I have been told something else by the Lord. I'm going to pay you what you need to make to come to my office every week to write on your book. Because I don't know nobody that does that.
Wow.
And here's the second thing that happened. Another friend who owns a publishing company saw what I published on her, and she said, you have a blank check in getting your book edited once it's done. And here's the third confirmation. The former executive director of the Texas Juvenile Justice System, over thousands of employees and kids, saw what they had posted and said, I know nobody else in this state who should write that book other than you. And I just looked up in the heavens, Kevin, and I said, I hear you, Lord. It's done. Say no more.
Yes. Oh, wow. Listen, hey, Travis, when you were telling that story about your 3 levels of confirmation, bro, I was getting chills. Oh, my God. Fantastic. Wow.
How do you say no to God after that, man?
You can't say no, right? As they say,
sir.
You are slaying them in the spirit and you're slaying them in person. Come on.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on. Come
Yes,
on.
sir.
Now, let me ask this question. Let's really jump into not so much the book, but some of the things that might be surrounding the book.
Okay.
So when a parent is at wit's end, why is it? Because they themselves have hopelessness and they're transferring that to their sons or daughters? Or how do troubles begin in a young person's life? Is it because the parents have hopelessness, or how does that happen?
Well, it starts out of habits in early ages.
Yes.
You may have a parent that laughs at something that is completely inappropriate.
Yes.
That a kid does at age 3
Gotcha.
or 4.
Gotcha.
That is disrespectful.
Yes.
And I know that tends to happen more often in single-parent families,
yes.
especially where teenage mothers
yes.
are raising children.
Yes.
What they don't know is that pattern of behavior is evolving.
Yes.
And the older that kid gets towards being 12, 11, 12, 13, then they're going through what we call the rites of passage.
Yes.
So if you have not put a bridle on that behavior
yes.
and help that kid to navigate through that rites of passage,
yes.
then remember, a kid who is able to disrespect his own parents,
yes.
he is going to go to school and disrespect all those in authority,
yes.
and eventually disrespect those in the community and the police.
Yes.
And others are not going to be so sensitive, and we sure won't find it funny.
Yes. Now.
So it's out of patterns and habits.
Now, what would be a inappropriate pattern?
Laughing at a kid drinking alcohol.
Got you.
And falling over.
Got you.
Laughing at a kid cursing out an adult.
Got you.
Or another kid.
Yes.
Or anything, or getting aggressive, especially physical aggression.
Got you.
Those are signs that we're being cautioned with, that many times we're allowed to go unchecked.
Yes.
You know, so that just many things that kids do. And then let's go to the nutrition part of that.
Yes.
I was in a store once, just a regular grocery store, and I saw this kid just pitching all kind of temper tantrums.
Yes.
And he had a bottle. It was about a 2 or 3-year-old kid.
Yes.
And the bottle was full with some kind of red liquid content.
Yes.
And I asked the mother, I said, man, what is that in that bottle?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Kool-Aid. I said, Kool-Aid? she said, yes, he loves Kool-Aid. He loves that sugar and Kool-Aid.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, if you know all the effects of Kool-Aid and sugar on a small child,
Yes.
and the dynamics that it impacts ADHD and let alone diabetes, juvenile diabetes, and so many other things, and she don't see it as a problem. Matter of fact, she was giving it to him as a reward.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Habits, Doc. Habits.
Got you.
I went to
and nutrition. Got you.
Yes, sir. I went to a Little League football game about a month ago to see my little nephew.
Yes.
I walked around that whole park looking for my family.
Yes.
And there were games going on everywhere with this Little League group.
Yes.
And everywhere I went, I witnessed music, gangster rap music being played.
Yes.
With every imaginable word you could come up with around these small little kids and women with just inappropriate clothing sagging everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, we don't have any hope.
Yes.
Looking at what is going on surrounding these kids.
Yes.
And I'm looking at these parents, the way they're cursing and arguing with each other and all the habitual dynamics that's going on in that environment. And man, all I ask the Lord is just give me a shot at them.
Wow.
Because this thing can change. God has an answer to it. But we have to start early, Kevin, and we have to start early enough to where we create new habits.
Yes.
And we can break that chain, man. We've done it over and over and over again. I'm dealing with a kid right now that someone found out about my book, a single mom raising a child, a son, who his father is extremely irresponsible,
okay,
living with his mom in his 30s, almost 40 years old,
wow,
being supported by his mom in his mom's house.
Wow.
And that kid, about to be 15, and he got to witness the irresponsibility of his father.
Wow. Wow.
Somebody said it this way, Kevin. Why don't you love Jesus?
Yes.
And the response was, he's a man. I don't know why I should respect a man when my daddy was the original portrayal of what a man looks like. And all I can remember about him is physical, sexual, and emotional abuse.
Wow.
So why would I trust Jesus, another man?
Yes.
There's something to it, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, so, first of all, Travis, you're giving me a lot to unpack. I'm going to unpack this by saying this, or maybe even asking this, right? So originally when we were talking about nutrition and some of those inappropriate behaviors, right? Could it also be the environment where it could be this whole pattern of hopelessness, and so this child feels like, I see my parents struggling, I don't want to struggle, and so I'm going to do something different even though it's wrong to change my hopelessness, that pattern of hopelessness?
No doubt about it.
Okay.
Family is number one.
Yes.
Environment is number two.
Yes.
And I say it in that order because family is who we know first.
Yes.
And if you establish the right patterns in family early on,
yes,
then, and I've said this to people many times, I have 3 children, Kevin.
Yes.
They all, well, one just finished college, the other 2 are in college right now. Matter of fact, last year I had all 3 of them in college at the same time.
So
I told some friends, I told some friends, Kevin, if you see me around your trash can looking for cans, you understand. But here's my point.
Yes.
I tell folks all the time, I don't have to ever worry about my kids going into school,
yes,
cursing out the principal and being disrespectful to the parent,
yes,
to the teacher.
Yes.
because we taught them not to do that at home.
Yes.
And it was consistent over time.
Yes.
And plus, they knew that dad was going to kill them when they got home that day anyway.
Yes.
But back to your question, environment. Well, let me back up. Fathers are number one.
Yes.
There are many mothers who have raised children who have done a good job.
Yes.
But one thing I make clear to mothers, you can't teach a boy how to be a man.
Very true.
You can teach him many things,
Yes.
but that rites of passage is something that a mature, loving, compassionate, understanding, and encouraging father with discipline has to be present.
Yes.
And if it is not present, well, a young kid I'm dealing with right now,
Yes.
and there's a mother and an aunt that is involved,
Yes.
and they're trying to do all they can with this irresponsible father who's not even in the life of the child.
Yes.
But they're trying to make a difference in the life of the child, and I met with him one time, and it became very clear that he need a man right now, solid man in his life.
Yes.
And he's not a bad kid.
Yes.
He's just doing stupid stuff
Yes.
because he's not seeing how it all relates to his opportunities and how it's depriving him of the things he's really wanting in life.
Yes.
And he's 14 years old, about to be 15, but he's going through the rites of passage, and he needs a strong man
Yes.
to help navigate him through the landmines.
Yes.
So, continuing with the answer to your question, environment is everything.
Yes.
Think about all of these young, poor African-American boys, boys in the hood, been raised in environments where the signals they get from men in that neighborhood is to have sex with many women,
Yes.
never marry them. Kids in that neighborhood are
Yes.
being raised without the last name of their fathers,
Yes.
and everybody's in the same circle, and then they are beating on their women, they are raping their women, and that's what they see. They are selling drugs,
Yes.
and they are in that environment where everything is being promoted like Scarface.
Yes.
If I'm going to get there, then I have to live that way and sell drugs and engage in those behaviors. And if I'm in that neighborhood, then I might need to be a part of a gang just to protect myself to live there,
Yes.
even if that is supposed to represent what a family looks like. And we know all of that is a lie. But it is what they see generationally. That daddy operated that way. The father, the grandfather operated that way.
Yes.
And there's a book titled, well, it's stepping me right, A Redemptive Path Forward.
Gotcha.
A young brother named Antoine Lucky wrote that out of Dallas.
Okay.
And it's about his life in the gang, and I can text it to you later.
Yes.
The gang life and the drug life. And here's one thing he says that goes straight to your question. He tells it in the book. He grew up in an environment like what I've just described,
Yes.
where if he was not selling drugs and if he was not a part of that family's gang, they was going to kill him.
Wow.
Period. End of story.
Yes.
So he started selling drugs and gang banging because he had no choice at all. And one thing he says in the story is, man, I ain't no killer. I ain't no gang banger.
Yes.
But that's what he was forced into
Yes.
because he had no choice. And that's not making an excuse.
Yes.
But it ties itself to the environment that some of these kids are growing up in.
Yes.
And Kevin, I go into schools and I ask principals, and I haven't done it since the pandemic started, give me 8 to 10 of the worst boys you got in this school.
Yes.
Behaviorally, I don't care what they've done because my work has been 40 years with some of the most violent kids in Texas.
Yes.
And what I know is after doing all of that, there's a reason why they're acting a fool.
Yes.
And if you can ever get to the heart of the matter,
Yes.
you can help change that kid's trajectory in his life. And one thing I do as I began to meet with kids, I have them to research their name. Because if they can ever understand the essence of who God created them to be, and they really get it, they will never go against who they are again the rest of their lives.
Love it.
And I know how to get to it. And one good thing, Kevin, because I work with some of the most violent kids in this state over and over again, you don't scare me. You don't scare me at all. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how bad you claim to be. And I'm not saying that because I'm bad. I'm just saying I've dealt with it all. So you're no new story, but that also gives me an edge in knowing how to be able to be loving and compassionate and then help identify with what that kid is going through.
Now, Travis, I want to stop you for a second, and I just want to share some things that are not even pertinent to this conversation, but I just want to share it with you. So I don't know if our paths have crossed before, but I know maybe about 15, 16, maybe even 20 years ago, I was in Dallas. I did a program with Ricky Clark, who's another motivational speaker.
Yes, sir.
And there's another guy, forgot his name, is on the tip of my tongue, who was also in that same circle. And so I was working with an agency, a program called N.A.A.C.P, the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And so we came out there to work with high school students, to teach them about entrepreneurship. So I believe during that time we might have crossed paths. And so I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure for us to keep in touch. But the other thing too is both you and I have the same last name. So when I saw it, I said, "Yo, I gotta get this brother on the phone, right?" And you know what's so funny? I think I'm traveling one day from Dallas to Houston, right? Or was I going from Houston to the shore town? And you pass a small town called Wortham, right?
Yes, sir. That is a fact.
I was like, oh my God, these are my people.
Yes, sir. Hey, Kevin, you and I need to get some residuals from whoever founded that town.
Listen, we need to go and take over that town. Right? Absolutely. Right. But the other thing I want to share with you too, and I've got over 30, 40 years of working with kids. So when you were talking about working with some of the worst kids in the state of Texas, mine is not that bad. So we did a program called Minding Our Business.
Okay.
And we had a program called MOB Extreme, right? We took 35 to 45 students who had been kicked out of Trenton High School. And we had to work with them. So 90% of them had a gang affiliation. 50% of them had already done jail time, and they were only, between 17 to 21 years of age. And we figured out that to combat all of this was to teach them about entrepreneurship.
Yes,
so
sir.
We started teaching them how to start and run a business. And even to this day, I would say there's about 10 of them that till this day, we see each other on the phones. We talk and text at least once a week. So I know that when you identify who the source of the troublemaker is or could be, and you give them something positive, or you let them know that I know the struggle, but I'm going to give you another opportunity to be better. Listen, and particularly if it's coming from a black man, they welcome that because so many of them don't have that imagery in their lives. So I applaud you and I thank you for the incredible work that you do. And there might be some collaboration. We can talk offline, but let us continue. So now,
yes, sir.
Once you are affecting change in these young men's lives, right? What's the follow-up? What does the follow-up look like? Are you going to their churches? Are you meeting them in the community? What are you saying to them to say that I'm still here for you? What's going on in terms of follow-up?
Well, number one, I provide life coaching work with teenage boys and young adults.
Yes.
And premarital counseling and all of that.
Yes.
And I'm going to back up. The way I started in juvenile corrections, I was teaching classes at the Dallas County Jail.
Yes.
And I was working with guys 17 to 24. I taught a philosophy course and a reading course.
Yes.
All of these guys had already been sentenced. They'd been to trial and sentenced. They were in a holding pattern to get transferred to prison. Man, we had so many conversations about life, about their patterns. There's a buddy of mine that created this map called Life Guide for America.
Yes.
You got to get a copy of it. His name is Robert Petrie.
Okay.
And it's got street names that represents choices that people make in life.
Yes.
Good and bad.
Yes.
Well, when I was at the jail, we had every imaginable conversation about how to get out of the rut people were in and take ourselves to the level where God has created us to go.
Yes.
We use a lot of scripture. We use a lot of philosophical sayings.
Yes.
About a year later, or two, I started meeting some of those guys on the streets of Dallas.
Yes.
And they would quote verbatim what I said in class.
Wow.
Even stuff I couldn't even remember.
Wow.
And they told me the reason I know this is because I memorized it, and when I went to prison, I took that and it helped model my behavior to good times, so I got out early.
Wow.
And now I'm working with people myself.
Wow.
Look, man, I got one kid right now. When I got him, he was about 6'5", 6'6".
Yes.
235 pounds.
Yes.
And we literally had to physically deal with him sometimes. Big time gangster in Ft.Worth, drug dealing, all of that.
Yes.
But the only reason he became that is because of his mother's boyfriend, big old burly, muscular guy who drove a dump truck.
Yes.
And I tell this in my book. And that guy left memories that was stitched in his mind. Every time he came, he heard that dump truck coming down the road. It represented abuse physically and emotionally.
Wow.
And he knew he was going to get a beating.
Wow.
And he joined the gang to protect himself against his mother's boyfriend, and that stopped all of that beating.
Wow.
But it cost him everything.
Yes.
And I'm saying, related to your question, that stuff evolves for a reason. It's a cycle. By the way, I was being asked this question on TV. They said, what's the difference between teen mass murderers and 60 people getting killed in Chicago over the weekend?
Yes.
You know, I was just delighted to get that question. And it relates, Kevin, to the exact question that you're asking.
Yes.
Because we know when we talk about Chicago, all of the poverty, all of the generations of gang activity,
yes,
all of the turf, and the turf is mostly about drug sales,
yes,
which boils down to having money.
yes,
And it's more that than it is anything. But the reality is it is costing guys their lives as a result. And then we talk about the commercial inequities that go on in poor communities. And by the way, I don't know if I said this to you before. Myself and a group of black men in our 60s and 70s went before all of the national leadership of the FDIC, the OCC, and the Federal Reserve,
yes,
to challenge them on inequities in banking as it relates to black-owned businesses in a project in Dallas called Banking Below 30.
yes,
And it has gotten national attention, and banks are now changing some of the policies. We were even able to help the governing bodies to understand their monitoring procedures or auditing procedures were inappropriate.
yes,
It wasn't getting to the heart of what these banks were failing to do in minority communities.
yes,
There's a program called the CRA, Community Reinvestment Act.
Yeah, familiar with
Well,
that. Yes.
all of their income, there's a percentage of that is supposed to be reinvested in the communities
Yes.
that they are in,
Yes.
and they have not been doing it.
Yes.
And the governing bodies have not been holding them accountable,
Yes.
some intentional and some unintentional.
Yes.
But it all relates to the question in Chicago. You don't have these young men who are able to get good jobs, living wage jobs, and they go underground to make their money.
Yes.
And therefore, they are selling drugs, they are working at car washes, working at fast food, so they can never have enough money. And I'm making no excuse for their crime. They deserve to be punished and be disciplined for it. But if you don't give them an avenue on how to get out of their situation,
Yes.
even though they have a felony, some of these are geniuses. We've got to help find a way to coach them out of that and out of their circumstances,
Yes.
so they can become taxpayers and they can become men who can contribute their child support and re-engage in the lives of their children.
Yes.
And the other side of that coin, dealing with the teen murderers, I said most of those are white guys.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those come from affluent homes and middle income and above.
Yes.
You can't not have money to go get an AK-47 or AR and ammunition where you got thousands around. You got to have money to do that.
Yes.
And the point being, what is it that's causing them to get there? Kevin, I talk about it in the book. What that formula is that leads teen mass murderers to become capable of doing that. One thing you'll notice when you see the footage of television stations when one of those incidents happen, many of them are in rural communities. Most of them come from homes that what you're thinking, what in the world would they be coming out of that kind of environment with that much affluence?
Yes.
And being able to be capable of performing such an act. Well, isolation. Mother marries somebody. She gets a divorce, marries another man, and she has little to no interest in the children anymore.
Yes.
He is isolated. He is on the social media, on the internet. He is going through depression. He goes to school. He's not a part of the clique because he's too odd in the first place.
Yes.
So nobody welcomes him in.
Yes.
And then he gets socialized on social media by an outlet, or she, by an outlet who knows exactly how to appeal to whatever the pain is that they are experiencing.
Yes.
And we talk about getting trapped in sex and human trafficking, boys and girls, and we know they're down to single digits now. And this stuff is going on all the time, man, every day, all day. And that's some of the ways we get trapped, and it definitely contributes to how kids get caught up in this phenomenon.
Wow. Wow. You are the resident expert. Wow. Wow. So let's mention the name of your book again.
Creating monsters are raising champions. What's wrong with these kids? And they can get it through www.urbanpublishinghouse.com. URBAN publishinghouse.com.
Now, I follow you on Facebook because we're friends. I see
Yes,
the work that you're doing in the Texas area. Is
Yes,
there
sir.
any opportunity, is there any chance that there could be a regional or national tour for the book and the work that you do? Because, man, this is incredible.
I'm waiting right now for all that. Well, I won't say waiting. I'm working on it, Kevin.
Okay, all right, cool.
I am definitely working on it. And, I'm surely open to going anywhere at any time.
Yes.
With folks paying just basic expenses as long as I can sell books.
Yep.
Wherever I'm at as a speaker. I do conferences here in the Texas area, especially men conference, man, I eat that up.
I know you
because one of the main things that I deal with in the book is chapters dealing with us men, because
Yes.
we are at the heart of the matter.
Yes.
Now, don't leave our women out of it, because there are some issues that we got to deal with. At the same time, in terms of how we disrespect men and dishonor them, when the very things that are at the heart of what makes that fuels men is at the heart of what men and women do to men.
Yes.
But I don't relieve men of the many responsibilities, because God has given us the ultimate one. So I don't let us off the hook, but I do it in a way that's encouraging and empowering.
Now, Travis, let me ask this question. The other person that came to my mind that I was thinking about as to how I might have met you as well was, I mentioned to you Ricky Clark, and then the other guy was Robert Nelson.
I know Robert Nelson very well.
Yeah. So because I knew between Nelson and Ricky Clark somehow.
Yes, I know both of them.
Okay, I might have met you. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So now let me this question. So you've got a young person that goes through the system, the criminal system. They come out. What type of reentry program or what type of reentry conversation are you talking about? Are you trying to bring the community, the church, and the families together so we can make sure that this young person, particularly this young man who may be an adult now or even an older adult, does not find himself in that same pattern of behavior? Talk to me about that.
Yes, sir. There's a pastor in Dallas by the name of Chris Simmons in South Dallas,
Yes.
The poorest community in the Dallas area.
Yes.
He is changing the game for the church in terms of empowering the community and lifting up the community.
Yes.
Man, he has a program that is a second chance program for those coming out of prison, where they work with prisoners while in prison
Yes.
for 6 months. And then they have to go through that program to transition into the apartments he have available for them.
Yes.
Then they work with them spiritually. Then they work with them in terms of responsibility, accountability. Then they help them get full-time jobs so they can start to reinvest in their families, to pay their child support. He's changing the game. He has an entrepreneurs program. He has a building where the homeless can come and take showers every day, wash their clothes. He had the entrepreneur program. If you're homeless and you have an idea and you pitch it before a committee, and that committee believe in what you're trying to do, they will invest money into your idea and help you to write all the documents you need to write. He is the epitome of what the church should be doing in any community across this country.
Yes.
So I'm saying that as an example, man, because there's several programs in Dallas. There's one called Men of Nehemiah.
Yes.
And that's another one that's in the poorest area of Dallas. You know, what's ironic is most of the best programs that are having the most impact are in the poorest community, who don't have the money to even have a program.
Yes.
But they make it work. Yes. And you know that's what we've done for 100 years. We've never had enough money, but that's not where we go. We believe in God, and we believe He has resources in 1,000 hills, man, and we make it happen.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we do, Kevin.
Now, although I'm giving the platform to you today, pastor that you just mentioned, I would love to invite him on the podcast, and the other young man that you mentioned, his book. I would love to meet with those guys and have them both on the podcast and interview them as well, man.
I'd love to send them to you.
Yeah,
I will do that.
So now, where are we 3 years from now? Where is Travis going, and where is Travis going with the Wortham group? I love that. See, people think that we're brothers, but we're brothers in Christ. But
you got that right. Hey, we still may be related. You know how that goes. Hey, We just mixed with slave masters. That's all.
Damn, yeah.
Here's where I'm going. Here's my goal.
Yes.
My number one goal is to reach children,
Yes.
but I know that I can't do that without reaching out men,
Yes.
because the men is the answer to reaching the children.
Yes.
There's the appearance that we've lost the teenage population. I don't believe that. But I know that one of the greatest assets we can have at this point is to catch young men at a very early age, and young girls.
Yes.
And I'm talking about in elementary school, okay?
Yes.
I want to go there.
Yes.
Now, the groups that I normally deal with is in middle school, and that's intentional and it's strategic. And it's, pretty logical. What's out of the three levels of formal education, which level is the one that kids are going through the most?
Yes.
They're dealing with finding themselves in middle school.
Yes.
They're dealing with physical issues.
Yes.
They're dealing with separating from their parents.
Yes.
They're dealing with trying to be associated with some kind of clique. So everything is rites of passage. They're dealing with that in middle school. So we got to go to middle schools and elementary schools. And here's what I've learned in the kids I've worked with in middle school. If I can get them in middle school and get them to see, I don't need to worry about them in high school and in college.
Gotcha.
And Kevin, I've got many kids I am mentoring in college that I started with in middle school.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
They stayed on a trajectory.
Yes.
Now, there's also a couple who ended up dead or in jail
Yes.
for shooting somebody,
Yes.
but they never stayed a part of the course.
Gotcha.
So, man, there are answers. And continuing your question, then I want to be going around the country.
Yes.
Kevin, I have an arsenal. When I did my first book signing after the book release, I was at a venue called the Hall of State
Yes.
in the Fair Park area of Dallas. It is a huge venue that is one of the top in the city.
Yes.
And I had about 250 people that showed up for that event. Every level, rich, poor, white, black, Hispanic, whatever you can name, Asian, they showed up. These are friends that I have connected with over the years.
Yes.
And they support me as a man of integrity and character.
Yes.
And I've sold more books that day alone, let alone all the others that I have done.
Yes.
So I was covered by Fox 4 News
Yes.
in the Dallas area. I don't know if I sent you that video or not. And if I didn't, I need to send it to you so you can pass that along.
Absolutely.
Man, look here. I'm ready to go anywhere and everywhere. And I have an arsenal of some of the top people in this country
Yes.
who are the best at what they do.
Gotcha.
Sex and human trafficking,
Yes.
gangs and gang intervention,
Yes.
who are the best at getting kids out of gangs.
Yes.
Whatever you say, dealing with girls and what's going on with girls. Man, I've got an arsenal of people. And I can put on a workshop and bring in people anytime, anywhere. All we need is the funding to make it all happen.
Yes. Isn't that isn't that always the case? We're ready to go. we just don't have the funding, and sometimes we don't have access to the funding. But
that is right. And that's a part of the capital inequity that we're talking about.
Yes.
And like always, we keep trusting God,
yes,
and He keep providing a way.
Yes.
By the way, my friend that I told you about that did that map called Life Guide America,
yes,
and if you send me your address, I'm going to send you a copy of it.
Okay.
His name is Robert Petrie.
Yes.
And he owns, he is one of the largest landowners in Dallas.
Okay.
And he is the largest landowner in terms of African Americans in the city. And he owns a ranch called Skyline Ranch.
Okay.
And we can have several thousand people at a time on his ranch.
Wow.
And we've had up to 1,800 kids at one time doing workshops in a day.
Listen, I love it. And the reason why I love it is because I got hooked to this show called Yellowstone. You ever see that?
Yes, sir.
And so
I haven't been watching it consistently, but I know the show.
yeah, the Dalton family, they are supposed to be the largest landowners in the country. So when you say that this is a black man and he's the largest landowner in Dallas or Texas, I'm like, yo, this is all right. Black man, that's all.
Yes, sir. Well, let me
Wow.
add more to it.
Yes.
He just bought another 50 acres
Yes.
next to his current property.
Yes.
And then that bags up, his current property bags up to a new college
Wow.
called the University of North Texas at Dallas.
Wow.
And it is becoming the most prominent college in the city,
Yes.
gaining more grants than any other college in Texas, even the University of Texas, Texas A&M, all of them, SMU, Southern Methodist, because now this is a white guy.
Yes.
That's the president,
Yes.
who loves the Lord. Matter of
Yes.
fact, I'm setting up a meeting with him pretty quickly.
Yes.
And they get millions of dollars. And he told me the other day, man, 80% of his black students that graduate from that college with a 4-year degree
Yes.
have no debt when they get out of college
Wow. North Texas.
because they're finding grants and loans and scholarships for them.
Were you on Facebook with that commentary? Because I think I seen that part.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I made a commentary about it.
Yeah, I seen that. That's what's up. Oh man, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And you can do up to a master's at that location.
Yes.
And, man, look, God is doing so much.
Yes. Well, you know,
And Kevin,
I hear
go
it
ahead.
because I noticed how long it's taken for you and I to connect.
Yes, sir.
So God is
Yes,
doing a
sir.
magnificent work in your life, brother. That's what I want to hear. That's all right. So now one more time with the name of your book.
Creating monsters or raising champions. What's wrong with these kids? DEEZKIDZS.
These kids.
And it's at
Yes.
www.urbanpublishinghouse.com.
Yes.
URBAN publishinghouse.com. One word.
Yes. Now, and then one more time, you were telling me about the largest African-American landowner in Dallas. What was his name again?
Yes, sir. His name is Robert Petrie.
Yeah, Robert Petrie.
P-I-T-R-E.
Yes.
And the audience want to get his map
Yes.
called Life Guide for America.
Yes.
And his map and my book are working in concert.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Then we
Because
got-
when you look, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, we got to get him on the show too. You are going to be my conduit into Dallas, into the Texas area. So we got to pump up that area as well, brother, because I want to come to Dallas.
Well, we want you to come to Dallas. And let me throw another
Yes, sir.
personality you need to have on the show.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Richard Broussard.
Yes.
Doc is a pharmacist,
Okay.
but one of his number one focuses is what's happening to African Americans, disease and nutrition wise,
Yes.
especially black children.
Yes.
So you got to have him on that show, man, to tell families what they're doing to their children
Yes.
and how it's impacting them neurologically, psychologically, physically, and otherwise, chemically. He has phenomenal research, man. And then you think, I got some people. Now, he really got some people. And as a matter of fact, everybody I'm going to connect you to,
Yes.
the 3 that I just told you about,
Yes.
all of them have so many folks in their contact, man, it'll blow you away.
That's what we want to do, man. We want to create a national platform for entrepreneurs to do their thing and to tell their story, right? So I'm going to send you the link where you can just pass that out to as many people and they can fill out the form, and we would love to get them on the show. But I want to,
Yes, sir.
as you were talking, man, this just came to my mind, and I apologize for even asking this question, right? So you're talking about boys, right? We're talking about straight boys where do we go with our brothers that are a part of the LGBT community? How do we work with them and some of their issues and concerns that they're having to deal with?
First of all, we love on them.
Yes.
And we don't disrespect them.
Yes.
Under any circumstances.
Yes.
We can't fight prejudice.
Yes.
And be prejudicial.
Yes.
At the same time, that's obviously an oxymoron.
Yes.
We want to love on them, and we want to show them the way.
Yes.
We want to give them godly principles about who they are in Christ.
Yes.
And the goal is, remember this about Christianity. It is not our responsibility to cause someone to come to Christ.
Yes.
It's our responsibility to tell the good news.
Yes.
And to live a life in front of them that make them worthy of wanting to know more, so that the Holy Spirit is the one that does the changing.
Yes.
There's a guy in Dallas right now. I knew his grandfather more than anybody. We have a very personal relationship that has passed. And he was gay.
Yes.
And he has come back to the church, regained his Christian position with the Lord, and he is not practicing any of his gay-like behaviors ever again. That's not our job to change them. Our job is to be like Christ in front of them, and that's what we're going to do. That's my response.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. The interesting thing about the work that you do is that a lot of your work is not seen immediately. It's seen years afterwards.
Yes, sir.
So what are some of the challenges that you are facing, and what are some of the regrets that you've had with the book?
Well, one of the challenges that I always face is when you're working with a kid who's living in an environment that represents hopelessness.
Yes.
So in spite of what all I can do to empower him with change, he still has to go back in that environment. So how do you help him have a hard incision and make him strong enough to live in that situation until he no longer has to live there? That's one of the challenges. Now, I love people, and I'm one of those I can't quit kind of personalities. So I believe God has an answer for everything we have that we're dealing with. And I believe there are tools and there are people and there are resources immediately available. We just may not have tapped into them all yet.
Got you.
But I tell you, Kevin, I performed so many projects. I'm dealing with all kind of people right now for Christmas gifts, and families who are indigent and getting bikes for kids and this and that. Man, I've never started a project that I, number one, didn't have enough money to do.
Yeah.
And number two, by the time I got through, I had more than I needed.
Got you.
That's simple as that.
Yes.
So that's the God I serve, brother.
Yes. Now, what has been, and I apologize, what has been some of the regrets and challenges?
Well, regrets are, let me start with something that's very personal, and it's in the book. I lost my own son.
Yes.
He was robbed and murdered.
Yes.
And it wasn't that he was just robbed and murdered. He was also involved in habits that he shouldn't have been involved in, and around people he shouldn't have been around.
Yes.
Now, his mother and I never married.
Yes.
And I was young and stupid and climbing the success ladder.
Yes.
And disengaged in many ways.
Yes.
there, but not there enough. And I fault myself some for not being present enough.
Yes.
That coupled with what I've seen in so many, and Kevin, this is a kicker. Most of the people I know that work with kids
Yes.
have lost a son
Wow.
by murder.
Wow.
I got a bunch of them.
Wow.
And when it happened to me, I happened to be in emergency
Yes.
at a hospital with an elderly friend.
Yes.
And I was called to come to the police station. Now, you know, the first thing I want to ask the Lord is, me?
Yes.
I've spent all of my adulthood trying to change the lives of young people.
Yes.
How does this happen to me?
Yes.
I want my ram in the bush.
Yes.
And here's what the Lord made clear. Why not you? I'm getting ready to take you further than you can imagine, to do things you can't imagine,
Yes.
to be with people you've never known,
Yes.
and to accomplish things you can never imagine.
Yes.
And Kevin, out of thousands of young men we've been able to help over the years,
Wow.
he's made it clear you ain't done nothing yet.
Yes.
But that didn't stop from causing me the pain,
Understood.
and it doesn't today.
Understood.
But it fills me. And he gave me 3 more, Kevin.
Yes.
And they're some of the most phenomenal kids you'll ever meet.
Yes.
So my point being, I've seen too many die on the vine,
Yes.
and mine's included.
Yes.
And I will do everything I can to save as many as I can. I already know God does not necessarily require me to save hundreds of thousands,
Yes.
but he does require me to do all I can for those in the space of my peripherals that he gives me charge of.
Yes.
And I ain't afraid, and I'm ready to go, and I've told him, send me. I'm ready.
Yes. And the Lord hears you, because I know he hears you.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
It doesn't come without pain.
Oh, listen, I understand that. I just want to tell you, man, you certainly have my condolences. And
Thank you, sir.
it is so touching. I could still feel the relevant pain as you were
Yes,
sharing
sir.
that story. So thank you for sharing. I just want to ask God, mercy and grace continued upon you. Wow.
Well, thank you. And in the book, there's a chapter that I deal with this very issue,
Yes.
because I make it clear.
Yes.
I ain't going to tell you one half without telling you the other half,
Yes.
because people are trying to heal,
Yes.
and they need to hear my story and the stories of friends of mine who lost their kids along the way.
Yes. Yes.
And I tell some wonderful stories about ladies
Okay.
in the book
Yes.
who were ready to go kill their parents.
Wow. Wow.
And it all came out of the violence that happened to them as children.
Yes. Now,
So even more so, Kevin, why people need to get the book.
now let me ask this question, Travis. At the end of the day, are we hoping that we could change the mindset, something similar, like just like a small amount, to get them to think and operate differently, or are we looking for this tremendous growth to overcome them? What are we looking for?
I'm looking for lives to be changed,
Yes.
where they are empowered to be successful
Yes.
in reaching exactly what God created them for.
Yes.
So I told this story recently. You walking in the yard, you step on a nail.
Yes.
You don't go to the doctor to get medicine for the healing of the spot.
Yes.
You get medicine for the healing of the whole body.
Yes.
And my goal is to heal the body
Yes.
change the whole mindset
Yes.
and empower others to go reach one, teach one to go reach one,
Yes.
because it's like throwing a rock in the middle of the lake, and we want the spiral effect
Yes.
that it reaches out and grab many along the way.
Yes.
That's where I want to go, Kevin.
Understood. With the time.
And here's my last major statement that I'm telling people.
Yes.
It's fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
It's fourth and inches.
Yes.
And there's no overtime, and it's 4 seconds on the clock.
Yes.
Pharaoh is not coming to save the children or the families.
Yes.
We've been tagged. He sent us, and that's it.
Yes.
Nobody else is coming.
Yes.
We got to do everything we can to save as many as we can.
Yes. Travis.
Yes, sir.
Brother, thank you. So with the time that we have left, any other acknowledgments, anything else you would like to share, any shout outs that you would like to give to the listening audience?
Two things. One, if folks are elderly,
Yes.
in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're retired, their children are grown, they've done a good job raising their children, or maybe they have not. This is a great time to give back and invest in young people or young adults beginning or starting out raising families. You have value beyond what you can imagine that can impact their lives, whether it's financial, whether it is emotional, whether it's in the form of encouragement, in the form of support, in the form of sharing the good news of the gospel. You have that ability, and maybe you didn't do so well in raising your own children, but it's not over. You get a chance to impact somebody else's life, and that grabs you points in the kingdom. And Kevin, I just want us to do all we can so that when it's time to close that casket,
Yes.
and they're ready to write or inscribe the words that go on the tombstone,
Yes.
we can make sure we've done all we can to make the best difference we can. And God wants us to be shooting at the bullseye,
Yes.
even if we miss it.
Yes.
Like with our kids, when we've raised them well and we've been consistent, both they and God will give us a pass and manage the damage.
Yes. Yes. Brother Travis Wortham.
Yes, sir.
I thank you. Wonderful, great, informative conversation. I'm wishing you nothing but the best. I'm praying God's protection over you and your mission, brother. Wow.
Thank you, man.
Yes. So listen.
Thank you very much.
I thank you, man. I thank you, man. We're gonna stay connected so that we can get those other persons on the platform. I'd like to come out to Dallas. I'd like to help you move your mission and your ministry as this feels like forward, right? And
yes, sir.
Let's talk offline, man. Let's talk offline. All right.
I look forward to it, Kevin. And man, you don't know what a joy it is. It's always a privilege to share your story.
Yes.
And especially when there's a listening audience, because the goal is always you never know what people are going through right now.
Yes.
And you never know who needs to hear a word.
Yes.
And anytime we can, then you know that we've done all God has required us to do.
Absolutely.
So you and I will stay, brother. We are joined at the hip now.
Yes, sir.
Let's do some things to make a difference for the kingdom here on earth, man.
Absolutely. Blessing upon you, brother Travis Wortham. We'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Talk to you much.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.